Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to the Classic Soccer 2026 World Cup with the best teams in 2026. So the rules for this thing was 48 teams got into the tournament, and well, the 48 teams got in for 2026. The 48 nations that got to the World Cup in the first place got a chance to send their best team, or in most cases, their only team in World Cup history to compete with them. Unfortunately, though, there was a problem. Uzbekistan, Cape Verde. Yeah, I know it's Cabo Verde, but I say Cape Verde. Jordan, not the guy I like, Jordan Kappa, but the country of Jordan. And Carousel, yes, known for its world Little League Little League World Series exploits of the 2000s. Um, this will be their first trip to the dance. I said Uzbekistan, right? Yeah. So of course there was a random draw for four nations that just missed out on the World Cup and all that, and they could just jump in. So we're gonna take a look at we're gonna recap the matches, the things and all that, and talk about the losers of each round because obviously those guys ended up so bad. First off, the 58 Sweden, represented by the 1958 squad, the team that went to the final in their home nation. And they had that trio of strikers from AC Milan. They actually banned them from playing on the Swedish national team because they were playing in Italy. But by 1958, they changed their minds and they got to the finals. The 58 Swedes, they lost to the 86 Argentines of Maradona 4-0 in aggregate. Costa Rica in this tournament, well, Costa Rica represented by the 2014 squad that shocked everyone by making to the quarterfinals in the first place. They ended up losing on aggregate to the 50 Uruguayans 3-0. 1990 Cameroon, I don't think they can't qualified, or did Cameroon qualify? No, I don't think Cameroon. I think Cameroon qualified. Obviously, I'm gonna have to take a look at my stuff. I don't think Cameroon qualified for the World Cup, right? No, Cameroon did not qualify for the World Cup. Cameroon was one of the four nations randomly selected to get into this tournament. I picked the 1990 squad team that shocked the world and almost became the first African nation to make the semifinals. They were up on England 2-1, but Gary Lineker had two straight penalties. They ended up losing to 2010 Paraguay of all teams 4-1 in an upset. Roger Milla. 22 Qatar, their only time at the World Cup till 2026. They hosted it. Everyone said that was stupid. Why did Qatar host it? Because of their human rights things. It was all about the dinero, the money, the moolah. Probably why the Americans got the World Cup this year. Anyway, Qatar dropped out quickly. They didn't get. I think they were 0-3 last time. I mean, they were 0-3 in their own tournament. They didn't even get out of the group stage. They ended up losing to 2010 Spain on aggregate 8-0. 2014 Australia, they made the 2026 tournament, represented by the 2014 squad. I felt that was the best squad. I could have said 2006 because they hung around with Italy, but the 2014 Australian squad, Australia has had some World Cup hiccups in the past. From 1974, well, they went last FIFA World Cup till 2006. They were basically haunted by voodoo. But yeah, that team lost to the 98 French. 2018 Croatia, represented by the 2018 squad that went to the final. I could have easily said the 98 squad that shocked everyone by their first tournament as an independent nation, getting third place, and Davor Suker winning the Golden Boot for most goals. But yeah, the 2018 squad made the finals, beat England, of course, to my annoyance, but France beat Croatia in that final. They fell to the 1970 total team Brazilians in this thing. 78 Scotland took on 2010 New Zealand, and Scotland got knocked out. Scotland has had a huge, terrible record until 2026. They have been to 8 World Cup tournaments and have fallen at the group stage all 8 times. They've had some close calls. I mean, 1974, they lost by 1 goal scored to Brazil for advancement to the second round. Scotland couldn't beat Holland by 3 clear goals to sneak past Peru into the knockout stages. 1982, giving up 2 goals to New Zealand actually cost Scotland a goal differential tiebreak with the Russians. 1990, they lost to Costa Rica, beat Spain, but Sweden just needed to tie Brazil, and they failed. And 98, they failed miserably. But yeah, this I put the 78 squad because those guys, top 10, lots of managers thought they were going to win. They ended up losing on penalties to New Zealand and the 2010 squad. And of course, as the great John Monson would say, the scene's so typically Scottish. Tunisia lost out. Tunisia in this World Cup, represented by the '06 squad. The only real World Cup squad I know from Tunisia, they fell to the '74 Germans, or West Germans, whatever you want to call it. Austria, represented by the '78 squad that actually shocked Germany in the group stages. Austria, that team lost to 2010 Ivory Coast. Austria's not really known for their soccer team. 1938, they had a good team, but because of the annexation of Austria by Germany, the Germans put the Austrians on their team. The Americans, the one of the three co-hosts for 2026. I put the 1950 squad that shocked England in the group stages. I made that team the U.S. representative, but they got taken out by the Czechs, 6-love. Colombia, represented by the '94 squad. Colombia's in this World Cup. The '94 squad that looked pretty impressive, that everyone thought was going to win. Pele even said Colombia was going to win the World Cup. But the '94 team shot the bed. Rene Higuita, the star goalie, and a bit of a flake, was in jail for being a go-to, an in-between for a cartel. Colombia fell to the Americans, Andres Escobar, with that own goal, and then he got killed for it. They lost to the 2002 Koreans. 1974 Haiti. The only time Haiti's been to the World Cup before 2026 was 1974. They actually scored twice, even one goal on Dino Soft, who rarely got scored upon. Haiti fell flat in that tournament, but yeah, they fell to 2018 Egypt. Zaire, or what they're now known as the Democratic Republic of Congo. There, I said it right. I didn't say Dominican Republic. But yeah, Zaire represent now DR Congo. They made the World Cup this year. Of course, they had their problems with Mabutu, no Mabuko, the star leader, as they call him. Zaire got kicked off the pitch by Yugoslavia 9-0. They ended up losing to the '06 Portuguese 5-1 in this one. South Africa, they're in the World Cup this year, and they're represented by the 2010 team, Bovada Bovada, the team that hosted the World Cup. And South Africa became the first host nation to fall in the group stages. They did beat France, but they fell on their own accord. They fell to the 66 Brits in round one. 2002 Japan. Japan, they have not missed the World Cup since 1994. I put the 2002 squad that won co-hosting rights for South Korea. Japan ended up losing to Belgium in the round of 16. They lose to the 82 Italians in this round 7-0. And the 98 Iranians. Iran has had a few teams. Of course, a lot of people thought Iran was not going to make the World Cup, and Trump wanted Italy to make it in. But too bad, so sad. They ended up losing. Well, they're in, and they lost to the 2002 Senegals. All right, so round two, some more teams that lost. 2010 Paraguay. Paraguay's in the World Cup this year. 2010, I don't really know much about Paraguay. Although '98 was Jose Luis Chilavert's moment, I should put that team in. But oh no, sorry, they won the game. Paraguay beat '94 Norway on penalties. Norway was up 1-0. So yeah, Paraguay won on penalties against Norway. Norway not really known for soccer prowess, except for the fact that Irving Holland, for the Man City top scorer, is on that team, and Norway's in the World Cup this year. They ended up falling to Paraguay on penalties. Uh, Egypt has had a few World Cups. I put the 2018. They're in this year. I put the 2018 squad in this tournament. Mo Salah and crew, but they ended up losing to Iraq. Panama, represented by the 2018 squad that made the World Cup. Shockingly, the Americans fell to Trinidad, and Panama won their game. So that meant Panama moved on to the World Cup automatically. They lost in the round of 32 to for Holland. 70 Brazil got a bad draw in the round of 32. That's the team with the total football. I put Brazil in, and of course the 70 squad because they had the total team effort and Jarcinho scoring every game in the World Cup that year. They ended up losing on away goals to 74 West Germany. Well, they had to. I tried to make sure that the matchups were like one continent against the other, just to make it more fair. Switzerland, Algeria lost in the round of 32. I put the 82 squad that beat West Germany and then got bit thanks to some argy-bargy between Austria and Germany. And of course, that led to the fact that FIFA would have simultaneous kickoffs for the final group stage games. So yeah, Algeria fell flat. They're in the World Cup. They fell to the Swiss from 1954. Bosnia, represented by the 2014 squad, well, they won in 2026. They beat Italy in the playoff, which shocked a lot of people. They're in Canada's group. Bosnia, the only other time, 2014, they made the World Cup. I put that team in, but they lost to the Ivory Coast. Saudi Arabia, represented by the 94 squad, the Saudis big in the Middle East and all that, getting the World Cup and not really having a lot of good results. But 94, they actually won a few games, including that famous Saeed Al solo goal against Belgium in Prud'homme. They ended up losing to France in the same 6-2. Mexico, represented by the 1970 squad. Mexico World Cup co-host this year and perennial North American champs. I didn't even know this, but every time Mexico went to the World Cup after 1978 till 2022, they never failed to get out of the groups. They never failed to fall in the group stage era. I did not know that. But yeah, 70 Mexico, they got ripped by Argentina. Ghana, represented by the 2010 squad. I think they didn't qualify, right? Or did they qualify? One look, and nope, they did qualify. Ghana did qualify. Okay, so Ghana 2010. I put the 2010 Black Stars, who should have been the first African nation in the semifinals. They were facing Uruguay. Luis Suarez was red carded for a handball, trying to save a shot, and then Azerbaijan missed the net, and Ghana lost that subsequent penalty shootout. They lost to the 66 Brits. Senegal, represented by the 2002 squad, they're in the World Cup this year. The 2002 squad, in their first game, shocked France, the defending World Cup champs, 1-0. Papa Bouba Diop is there, and Bouba Diop is there. And after half an hour's play, Papa Bouba Diop scores. Great call by the late BBC commentator John Motson. Senegal lost to Belgium. Turkey, represented by the 2002 squad, they've only been to a few World Cups in history, but they've had some great European moments in the Euro. But Turkey, represented by the 02 squad, who actually shocked the world, lost twice to Brazil, but they ended up finishing third, beating Korea in the third place game. They ended up losing to 50 Uruguay. Ecuador, represented by the 06 squad, don't really know much about Ecuador. They lost to Spain. Nigeria, represented by the 98 team, they were one of the teams that didn't qualify, that randomly got selected. So yeah, 98 Nigeria was randomly selected. Well, Nigeria was not randomly selected, and I put the 98 squad that put some fear into Spain. They ended up losing to New Zealand on aggregate. It was like Nigeria losing to New Zealand, really? South Korea, the 2002 squad. Well, Korea, represented by the 2002 squad that co-hosted the World Cup and were given massive perks, including a round of 16 win against Italy that should never have happened, and a quarterfinal win against Spain that should not have happened. They ended up losing the third place game. They lost to Italy 4-0. A new Italian group. Canada, one of the co-owner co-hosts. I put the 2022 squad, not the 86 squad, because the 22 squad did something big. They scored goals, but they lost to the Czechs. 2006 Portugal represented by the 06 squad. I should have put the 66 squad because that team actually lost the semifinal to England. But yeah, I put it because of CR7. He scored, but they lost to Morocco. And of course, that 06 Portuguese squad pisses me off because CR7 winked and got Wayne Rooney sent off. And that made me pissed off at Portuguese soccer for 12 years. In the round of 16, Uruguay shocked Italy. The Italian squad, represented by the 82 squad, that actually shocked the world by winning the World Cup with Paolo Rossi coming back from a 2-year ban for match fixing. Italy did not make the World Cup. Everyone knows that for 2026, but Italy was randomly selected, and they got through to the round of 16 but lost to Uruguay. Morocco, represented by the 2022 squad that became the first African team to make the semifinals. They pulled everything off. but they lose in this thing 3-0 to the Dutch. What's even more shocking is for a while, Canada was actually the last team to score in Morocco in regulation for a while. Cote d'Ivoire lost in the round 16, represented by the 2010 team. Didier Drogba and Crow. They were in Africa, after all. And they ended up losing to England. Paraguay represented by the 2010 squad, although I should have said 98, but Paraguay don't really know much about World Cup history with them. They lost to France. West Germany 74 represented, well, Germany represented by the 74 squad that won on home turf. They hosted the World Cup and beat Total Football, that beat the Dutch. So anyway, the Germans, yeah, a lot of people said, did the Dutch qualify for the World Cup? No, they didn't. Oh no, they did. Wait. Oh no, that's right. Dutch were still, yeah, was in my head here. Yeah, 74 West Germany shocked those guys. They ended up getting taken out by Spain, so that was huge. The Czechs represented by the 62 squad that shocked everyone. Well, they beat Scotland in a one-game playoff to make the World Cup in the first place, and then they got to second place, losing to Brazil in the final. They got beaten up by Argentina and Iraq. The 86 squad, the only time they've been to the World Cup, Iraq, not Iran. They end up with the Hussein brothers in charge. They lose to Switzerland. So now we have the quarterfinals. Belgium versus Holland. They always trip over each other. Switzerland versus France. England versus Argentina. Spain versus Uruguay. So not really. So you got like two two neighborly matchups. One massive rivalry between England and Argentina, and Spain and Uruguay, kind of a low end battle. Anyway, first leg, Belgium Holland. Sees Belgium Holland tie 2-2. Moynier with a pair of goals for Belgium. Holland a pair of goals. Rosenblank and Cruyff. Rosbergen got a red card, so he's not playing the next match. Switzerland hosting France, and they got torn apart 3-0. Thierry Henry, Shogiev, and Marcel Desailly scoring the goal. 3-0, Switzerland in trouble. England hosting, losing 1-0 on a goal by Feldano. Not Maradona, but Feldano. Maradona's a marked man in England. And Spain hosting Uruguay, tied 1-1. Iniesta for Spain, Juan Antonio Scavino for Uruguay. Quarterfinals, France has a 3-0 lead on Switzerland, and once again 3-0. 2 goals by Thierry Henry, Lisa Rassou scoring. So the 54 Switzerland represented by the 54 squad that ended up hosting the World Cup and actually got into quarterfinals. They got beaten by France. So Thierry Henry and crew are in the semifinals. Argentina, England, second quarterfinal. Sees a 1-1 tie. Jose Louis Brown, because his Brown, yeah, I know it's an English last name, but they're an English father marrying an Argentine mother. And then Bobby Charlton scored, but 2 LTL. So Maradona beats England, even though he didn't score this time. So that's good news. Uruguay, Spain sees them tie 2-2. Andres Gigia and Schivano, the guys who scored those 2 goals in the Maracana, scored for Uruguay. David Villa and Iniesta for Spain. The only problem is because Spain scored 2 road goals, Uruguay scored 1. Spain gets into the semifinals by road goals. So in the 50 Uruguayan squad, Uruguay is represented by the 1950 squad that shocked everyone in Brazil, beating Brazil on the final day to win the World Cup and silencing the Maracana when only 2 people, Frank Sinatra and the Pope, did so. 66 England represented by the 66 squad, the team that won the World Cup on home turf. There might have been some argy-bargy and all that, especially with Jeff Hurst's goal that struck the other side of the bar and did not cross the line, and this is coming from an England fan too. And the fourth quarterfinal sees Belgium win 2-1. Kroll scored for Holland, but Belgium goals by Eden Hazard and Lukaku. And no, that's not the Mario character, that's Lakitu. So Holland is out. Well, Holland qualified for the World Cup this year. I think they missed in 2018 they missed. But yeah, the Dutch represented by Total Football 74 that should have won the World Cup in Germany, but they lost. So it's Belgium, France, Argentina, and Spain. So I don't know. I don't really think Argentina has any rivalry with anyone. Belgium and France, it would be funny if they faced each other in the semifinals because of those guys. It would be France versus Ha ha ha. It will be France versus Belgium. It drew France versus Belgium. I didn't manipulate it. Argentina will play Spain, but man, unfreaking real. France and Belgium have to face each other. I should have known. But anyway, yeah, France and Belgium. Well, Belgium's the only one of the four teams not to be represented by a World Cup champ because 2018 Belgium took third place. So let's take a look at the four teams in a sense. 98 France, 6-1 and 0 in France. They were the champions. I don't know who they lost in 98 to in the World Cup. I don't know. I'll have to take a look. I'll have to take a look because I'm like who did they lose to? Who did France lose to? Yeah, France were 3 and 0. Yeah, France were 3 and 0. Who did they lose to? They didn't lose to anybody. Huh. That's a mistake. Well, anyway, Stade de France, they have 7 wins and a tie in 8 games. They had to go through the preliminary round, not the round of 32. They didn't get the qualifier, but they had to face Australia, beat them 2-0 in aggregate. They took down Saudi Arabia 6-2. They took down Paraguay 2-1 and Switzerland 6-0. So they've scored 16, but only conceded 3, twice against Saudi Arabia in the second leg. Yeah, so yeah. Their only tie was with Paraguay. Shogiev and Henri have scored 4 times. Turam and Petit twice. Desai, Leza, Razou, Trezeguet, and Sedan with goals. Blanc and Shogiev have 3 assists. So, yeah. They won 2018 Belgium. Third place, 6-1. They did lose to, I think, France. Yeah, France beat Belgium in the 2018 semifinals in real life. Belgium beat England for third. They have won 5 and tied 1. They got a bye into the round 32. The only tie was with the Dutch in the first leg, but they won. So they won 4-1 aggregate against Senegal, 3-0 against New Zealand, and Holland was the tough 4-3 match because Belgium and Holland always bumped into each other. 11 goals scored, 4 against. Hazard with 3, Dries Mertens with 3, Meunier with 2, Lukaku with 2, De Bruyne with 1. Meunier has 3 assists. Yeah, Belgium's goalie is Thibaut Courtois. France's goalie is Fabien Barthez. Argentina, 1986. They've won 7 and tied 1 in this tournament. They had to go to the preliminary round against Sweden, won 4-0 on them. Mexico 7-0, Czechs 8-1, and England 2-1. So they've scored 21, but they've only conceded 2. So 7 wins. That tie was against England in the last leg. They almost went 8 for 8. 6-0-1 in 1986. They were the champions. Jorge Valdano and Diego Maradona, great striking presence with 6 goals each. Jose Luis Brown, Rogério and Burruchaga with 2, Batista and Borghi with 1 each. Giusti, Valdano, Maradona, and Burruchaga with 3 assists each. Yeah, Valdano and Maradona have done quite well. So yeah, nice again, 21-2. Ispan lost the first game of the 2010 World Cup, but won the next 6 when it mattered. They have 6 wins and 2 ties. They actually went through Qatar, Ecuador, and Germany, even 74 Germans, without giving up a goal. And then they gave up 3 goals to Uruguay, thankfully, because they scored twice in Uruguay. They won away goals. They have scored 22, given up 3. David Villa has put up not 1, not 2, but not 8, but 12 goals. Iniesta 4, Puyol 2, Sammy Alonso, Pedro, and Navas with the other goals. Sergio Ramos, Savi, David Villa, and Iniesta with 3 assists each. So Spain looks pretty impressive. So let's look at the summary. Top goal scorers, Phyllis got 12. The second best has 6. So put Valdano and Maradona together, they have 12. David Villa has 12 by himself. Assist-wise, no one's got more than 3. Most goals scored, Spain's got 22, Argentina 21. Holland is third with 16, even though they're not in the semifinal. France is. Fewest goals scored, whatever. Fewest goals conceded. Argentina have only conceded twice. Norway and Colombia will technically be the least goal score, giving up only 1 goal, but they only play 2 games. Most goals conceded. Switzerland conceded 11 goals. 9 of the 4 semifinals have conceded more than 4 goals. Yeah, Switzerland gave up 11 goals in 6 games. Analysis. Um, 32 games in which both teams scored. There have been 58 clean sheets. When you lead by one goal in a game in a thing, you're 23, 5, and 12. When you lead by two or more, you don't lose. Halftime, when you're winning at halftime, you're 57, 1, and 9. Wow. And when you score first, you're 69, 5, and 12. Most prominent full time scorers 1-0 for the home team and 3-0 for the road team, done 10 times. Halftime scores 1-0 for the home side 20 times. Goals in a match, twice there's been a 0-0 tie. Twice there's been 6 goals in a match, but the highest number is 3 with 27, 31%. And the highest goals per 15 minutes, 31 to 45 near the end of the first half, 52 of them. And of course, there's been no extra time, I guess. Winning position, Brazil's been winning position a lot. Highlights, hat tricks. David Villa scored 4 times for Spain against Ecuador. He scored a hat trick against Qatar, so that's 7 of his 12 goals. Hughie with a hat trick, Schur with a hat trick. 5 more goals by one team. Spain, 2010 Spain against Qatar, 5-0, and 86 Argentina over Mexico, 5-0. 74 Holland, 5-1 over Panama and Spain, 5-0 over Ecuador. Switzerland and Algeria had a 3-3 tie. Comeback Kings, 54 Switzerland was down by 2 against Algeria, make it 3-3, and then 50 Uruguay was down by 2 to 2010 Spain. But they ended up winning the game anyway. So yeah, so you got team offense, team defense, blah blah blah. Goalkeeper stats. Gordon Banks, Bartes, Iker Casillas, Pompidou with 8, and then it has to be the other guy, Thibaut Courtois. Belgium is the only one of the final 4 who did not have to play in the preliminary rounds. Yeah, Banks played 8 games too. As Poli played 7 games. I'm actually surprised. Yeah, Uruguay started him and Manure. Okay, whatever. But that's all we got next week. We got the semifinals. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.